Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this big talk powered by The Big Whale. As a media outlet, our primary mission is to bridge the gap between the cryptosphere and the traditional world, ultimately aiming to build trust in a trustless world. Today, I'm really excited to discuss these themes and more with our special guest, Antoine Scalia, co-founder and CEO of Cryptio. Hi, Antoine. How are you?
Hey Raf, I'm good. Thanks for the invite.
Okay, cool. Welcome. So, Antoine, Cryptio may not be the most well-known company in the crypto space, but what fascinates me about Cryptio is that even if the general public isn't familiar with you, you have an in-depth understanding of the crypto industry. You work with a lot of companies interested in crypto, helping them to structure their operations. Antoine, when we met in London a few weeks ago, you mentioned that you serve as a kind of crypto back office. Could you just elaborate on what you mean by that and explain what you are doing at Cryptio?
Sure. Crypto is a company founded in 2018, pretty long time ago. We are a data platform for accounting, compliance, and audit. What it means is that we work with companies dealing with crypto. I can come back to who these guys are, but companies dealing with crypto, and we help them with software automate accounting workflows, getting them ready for financial statement audits, and help them with compliance requirements. More and more regulation is coming in, and more of companies dealing with crypto will have to report not only to the accountants, not only to the auditors, but also to regulators, and we help
Okay.
them do that with software.
Okay. Interesting and very clear. What types of company are you working with?
So we're working with three types of companies. The first segment is crypto native startups. It's been on our bread and butter, I would say. So we've been working when we started in 2018. We thought that like doing accounting for crypto was going to be a problem. And so at that time, we had to find the first companies that were dealing with crypto and potentially facing accounting challenges. And obviously, these companies were crypto native companies at the time, mostly ICO companies. So this segment has been kind of a historic focus. Within that segment, we're working with the largest companies out there. We're doing all the back office of Uniswap, of MetaMask for Consensus, WorldCoin, all the biggest crypto foundations. So we have like a very strong traction and market penetration on this segment. The second
Okay.
segment is governments. So we have two very large contracts with two governments. One is the government of El Salvador,
Okay.
where we
Interesting.
working on the Bitcoin accounting for the national wallet of the El Salvador, which is called Chivo. And we
Okay.
have
Okay.
also and we
Okay,
have
so you
also
have a lot of yeah. Okay, interesting. So I mean, we will talk about it later, but yeah, it's a really interesting point.
another like big government in Europe. And the third segment is what we call regulated crypto. And in this segment, we put both crypto native companies building regulated crypto products, as well as sort of their financial institutions counterpart that are building the same product. So you can imagine, you can here think of like stablecoin issuers. We work with crypto native stablecoin issuers, but we work also with Bancolombia, which is the largest retail bank in South America, which is issuing a peso stablecoin. You have also exchanges, you have payment companies, you have basically all institutions and companies that are building products that are or will be regulated in the different jurisdictions.
Okay, cool. And so you have three kinds of clients. What are the biggest in terms of business? It's more the crypto native company. I assume that with only two government contracts, it's quite different.
Yeah, it's very different. The ones in terms of size of contracts, but also in terms of like volume of transactions, complexity of tracking all that activity. I would say that the largest crypto natives are maybe the toughest one, and therefore like in terms of contract value, maybe the biggest ones. To give you some example, for Consensus, what we're doing is that we're doing all the back office of MetaMask. When you're using MetaMask, and you're using a product through MetaMask, so you swapping tokens, or you staking, or you interact with any smart contract that is embedded within MetaMask, you have Consensus, who is the company behind MetaMask, who is collecting a fee through some contracts. We doing the tracking of all of that, which represents, in terms of bull market, like hundreds of millions of transactions per year, across, I think, 7 or 8 different protocols. And so doing this in a way that Consensus can basically meet all their requirements, starting with financial statement audits, and as well, and that's kind of the new thing, and that's the new thing with Consensus, but also the new thing with Uniswap and a few other customers. Now they have also the SEC battle that is kind of part of the picture, where basically all of a sudden, the SEC is going after them. And so not only they need to prepare their audit, not only they need to close their book, but also they need to prepare and they need to have like reporting and reports sent to the SEC on a very frequent basis, and they can't be wrong. And so here, in terms of both volume of transaction, complexity of reporting, and now this urgency that exists with the SEC, I would say that these contracts are the most challenging ones. They're also like the most interesting ones, because you can argue that these guys are kind of at the edge, and they are the first ones to face very complex problems, which obviously will be faced by more organizations in the future.
Okay. And so thanks for your explanation. So to be clear, so if and actually the Big Whale is a crypto company, but we can take another example. If we want to work with you, so you will manage all the data, in-house. So maybe we call those data off-chain data and also on-chain data, just to understand exactly on which data you are working.
Yeah, sure. So Cryptio is actually two things. There's like kind of two combined value propositions. The first one is around data collection. And by data collection, we mean any form of data point that could have an impact on your accounts, on your books. And with a strong focus on on-chain data. So there is kind of a paradox in our world of sort of enterprise accounting, which is when you deal with on-chain data, obviously you deal with public data. And so it is, you could think that actually collecting that data is not difficult, is not part of the problem, because anyone can access that data. But actually, it is pretty difficult. And do this, to come back to the example I mentioned with MetaMask, collect these hundreds of millions of transaction data from the 6, 7, or 8 different protocols that it come from, in a way that you have a partner from EY or from PwC, who are these big auditors, will come and say, okay, I'm confident that all the data is there. And so we'll mostly look at all the financial reports built on top. Actually solving this and making sure this guy trusts the data is a very complex problem, for lots of reasons, but it's a very complex problem. And so the first value prop of Cryptio is to solve that problem. What it means is that all the data capabilities are built in-house. So we run nodes, we index chains for like all protocols out there, most of the protocols out there. And we build this sort of source of truth for enterprise accounting, audit, etc. So that's kind of the first value proposition. But if we need to add on top of that, not only on-chain data, but exchange data, OTC data coming from internal systems, obviously we can do this, and we do all the reconciliation. And the second value prop is, once you have your single source of truth, once you have all this sort of transaction history that you can trust and your auditor can trust, we build on top reporting modules. So you have like a module to automate accounting workflows. You have another one to do reconciliation. You have another one to comply with MiCA. So it's like a data layer and reporting workflows built on top.
And what's the hardest part of your work regarding all the collect of the data in-house and of course outside the company? What is the biggest challenge for you?
The biggest challenge is to have complete data. So the only care, to come back to this like auditor situation, The only thing that this guy cares about is like that everything is there, that you're not missing any transaction, that you're not missing any movement. And in the world of blockchains, like blockchain, the way blockchains kind of generate data first could be different from one blockchain to another, but also could be different based on the nature of the transactions. No, I won't go too much into the details, but if you have a transaction that is triggered by a smart contract, what we're calling an internal transaction, this information, this transaction would be the way you will catch this information would be different than if it was just like a manual ETH transfer. Like if I'm just sending you ETH manually through my MetaMask wallet. So the way to fetch this information is different. And so when you had on top of this the tens of hundreds of different blockchains, the thousands of different contracts, you need to what we're calling the indexer, which is this piece of software that is reading all the blockchain and restructuring the data in a way that is helpful for us. This part is actually very difficult, and it requires a lot of iteration. So we started in 2018. We started to have this like on-chain data approach like in 2020. So in 2020, we started to index all these blockchains, and then we realized that these auditors, these guys that I mentioned, pretty often came back to us and say, "Hey, there's this thing that is missing. There's that thing that is missing," and we were realizing that basically these indexes that we were building required a lot of iteration to kind of capture this long tail. If you go to Etherscan, for instance, maybe 95% of the events would be captured correctly, but there would be 5% of events that won't be captured correctly. Yep. And in this world of enterprise accounting and finance, these 5%, getting these 5% right is extremely valuable and requires a lot of iteration. And so that's the toughest part.
Okay, and you are able to recover everything? I mean, to guarantee that 100% of the data is accurate, or you have still the error margin?
We've built, and that's the value of our system, and that's why these companies are paying us quite a lot of money. Is when we're building these indexes, when we're generating that data, we have what we're calling like controls, which are things that we put in place in how we run the node, how we index the chain, and then how we verify the completeness of the data. We have lots of these controls that are themselves being audited by external auditors. And so you have these sort of certifications. In the world of the price software, that's pretty common. That's called SOC 1, SOC 2. But we have very specific SOC 1, SOC 2 that basically covers step by step how we do this in order to kind of attest to our customer that everything is there. But then the other piece, so that's kind of the theory, like the regulation aspect of things. But then there is like a mathematical aspect of things also, in a sense that with blockchains, it is very difficult to have complete data, but it's very easy to prove that you have complete or non-complete data, because you can always, like, okay, I have a list of transactions, and so I know that based on that list of transactions, the balance should be this. But then you can query a node, or you can even query 2 nodes or 3 nodes that you don't control, and you have these nodes, okay, give me the balance of that wallet, and you can compare the two. And if that match, it means that like you have complete data. If it doesn't, it means that you have a problem. So this operation is something that is done at scale at Cryptio, both directly through our interface and on our backend. So it's relatively easy to prove that you are right or wrong, but actually pretty challenging to be right or wrong, but to be right.
Yep. And do you think that we will avoid big scandals like, of course, from the traditional finance with Bernie Madoff, for example, or SBF with FTX, with this kind of traceability tools and the fact that we are using the blockchain?
Yeah, I strongly believe so, but I think that there's a long way to go. Where there is still obviously today this sort of paradox within the kind of the core value proposition of blockchains of being trustless. I think that today there is not enough tools that enable blockchains to be trustless, and the data piece is a big one. And every single stakeholder, from finance team, auditors, regulators, don't have the tools to enable basically these blockchains to be trustless. And so there's this gap this technological, I think, gap to be bridged, before we can really build on top of that value proposition, and before we can have a part of the financial system that runs on top of blockchain rails, and having this like value proposition in full strength. That's part of our mission, to fill that technological gap.
Yeah, interesting. And what's missing, according to you and Cryptio, in terms of tools? So you have many things, but what is missing to have a full set of tools?
I think you have but you have tools that need to be better, and that need to evolve. We've been doing this for 6 years now, and obviously I can't say that we have a perfectly finished product. It's a constantly moving product, because also the regulation and the requirements are evolving. And so when you talked about compliance and regulation and all of that, like there is still a lot of uncertainty on what companies will have to do, which basically have an impact on tools. So definitely there's more to go. There's a way to go for tools like us. But then also I think that the other part is around education of the important stakeholders within that world. We've seen in the last 6 years, for like the finance teams that are working with these big companies, education has been a real thing. Like when we started, like we wanted to solve that accounting problem, and we sat down with finance teams, and we were basically looking at each other and said, like, how do we solve this? And obviously no one had any answer to this. So it was a long, iterative, like sort of educative process. And I think that on the accounting and sort of financial reporting and even audit piece, like a lot has been done. And like you have large audit firms that are very confident about how to do things, and are becoming more and more reluctant, but also when they do it, like more and more confident in like signing audits of large companies. But there is a lot of education to be done, so that people can have the right tools and then know how to use these tools, and have sort of processes that have been battle tested.
Yeah, sure. No, it's a good point. And so, how many clients do you have in 2024, and how many people are working at Cryptio?
We have around 500 customers today. So across these 3 segments that I mentioned, I think that these customers are around like sort of 25 countries. Big part of them are in the US, but across 25 countries. As a company, we are close to 65 people, with 3 offices. Original office is in Paris. We have our biggest office today is in London, and we have also office in New York.
Okay, interesting. And do you plan to open an office in Asia? Because I mean, it's also a very dynamic market.
Yes, not in a very near future. Today, there are some other parts of the world where we see strong traction and a great fit for what we're doing, especially in South America. So I mentioned Salvador, but we have large clients in Brazil, in Colombia, and we see a lot of activity in the stablecoin and payment world, and so we strongly focus on this. So maybe it's likely that we will open an office in this region at some point. But yeah, obviously Asia is a focus also. But yeah, in terms of tactics, it is likely that we will open an office in South America before.
Okay, interesting. And so back to El Salvador. As you know, everyone is not focused on Salvador, but want to know what's going on in Salvador. In few weeks, it will be the birthday of the adoption in Salvador. I think that it's now 2 or 3 years. I can't remember if it was in 2021 or 2022, but as you know,
21.
El Salvador, 21. So yeah, it will be 3 years. So El Salvador is pioneering in the crypto space, especially with Bitcoin. You are working with them. What are you doing exactly with El Salvador?
So we El Salvador, they have a public backed wallet called Chivo, which
Mhm.
is basically the wallet that the government recommends people to use. It's not mandatory; like people can use any wallet, but a lot of merchants, a lot of shops are basically integrated with that wallet. And what we're doing is we tracking all the activity that goes through that wallet, which represent basically millions of transactions per
Mm.
month, even tens of millions of transactions per month. And we help the team at Chivo, which is also very close to the government. We help them automate basically all that tracking, and so that they can basically report and understand the activity of the wallet.
Okay, and okay, it's your client, so you can't reveal everything. But
Yeah.
could you say that it's a success? Because as you know, it's not only about economics; it's also a political matter, especially regarding El Salvador. So yeah, could you say that what they've done for the last 3 years is, I mean, a success? Are people really use Bitcoin in El Salvador?
Yeah, well, obviously there's a lot that I can't say, but the high level dynamic is that things are accelerating in Salvador, like big time. The adoption of the wallet and the adoption of Bitcoin is growing, and they are very confident and very confident in the future, and that these things will keep accelerating.
Okay.
But yeah, things are going well. Things are going better and better, and the high level dynamic that we see. Obviously, we don't. I've never been to the country, so I would not be able
Mm.
to tell you exactly how day-to-day life is there in terms of like Bitcoin, but in terms of high level dynamic, things are looking strong.
Okay. So you are monitoring Chivo wallet, and is the same system for the government because they also, I mean, invested with through bonds and stuff like this with the government. So are you also working with the government on this?
This I can't say.
Okay. Okay. Next time. Thanks. So you're working with a lot of crypto startups, also with governments, and I think that this is also really interesting with traditional players.
Yeah.
Antoine, as you know, we saw the last, I mean, years and especially last months, new big traditional players like BlackRock, Societe Generale, Nike, a lot of big corporates entering this space. Are you working with those kind of corporates, and what they are looking for when they are working on crypto? And yeah, what can you tell us about the dynamic about traditional player in the crypto space?
I think that there is we've been expecting for a very long time that we see like big names getting into the space, and we thought that there are a few use cases in the last few years that we thought would be sort of catalyst for adoption. Like a couple of years ago, for instance, we saw a lot of a lot a few large corporates entering or thinking of entering the space through the NFT use case, and so like there are a lot of like luxury companies and stuff like that. And I feel like first of all, on our side, we didn't see a lot of conversion with these type of players, and I think that this is
Mm.
kind of dead or imposed right now. So the what we're seeing is like a new dynamic with new types of players and new types of use cases, and we're a bit more bullish that actually this will eventually convert. Um, in terms of are we working with them, we're working with a few, especially in South America, actually. So I
Okay.
mentioned this large bank called Bank Colombia, which is building issuing a stable coin. So they're issuing like the peso stable coin, as well as a lot of products to help customers of the bank use peso in a digital way. We're also discussing with a few large ETF providers in the US. I think that what matters is numbers, and we can see, and these numbers are public on adoptions of ETFs and these regulated crypto products. And when it comes to building investment products accessible to everyone, or accessible to more people than just crypto through exchanges, we can see that like the early numbers are strong. And we can see also that with the issuance of new ETF products with new currency, there is a sort of like validation through maybe the Bitcoin ETF that like numbers are good, and so they want to move to the next step, which is launching more ETFs and then maybe launching more complex investment products. So on the investment side, I think that things are going well and things are going strong, especially also if in the US regulation is becoming a little bit more friendly, which it seems that it's the case. So I believe that for regulated crypto products launched by these like large institutions, like there is for the first time real traction. And as like infrastructure provider in the crypto space, we could be confident that our market will slowly increase, which is something that it's been a long time we've been waiting for new entrants in the market, like new types of people to sell. And for the first time, this is happening. Another part which is interesting, where we see a lot of activity, is around payments. And so we see a lot of traditional players. It could be banks, but it could be large payment providers getting into the space, adding blockchain rails within sort of the value chain, and leveraging stablecoins to do this. And here we can see also that they're kind of going through these steps, moving from small proof of concept to enlarging a little bit, and kind of taking more and more, being more and more present within the full value chain. And they kind of, if you think as like a marathon with different checkpoints, like it's been a year and a half, and we are involved in a few of these projects, and kind of all different checkpoints are being passed, and they're looking forward to the next one. So I'm also a little bit confident, but again, I don't want to be too bullish yet, because we've been doing things for 6 years, and it's been 6 years that we've been telling us that institutions are coming, and we've been waiting for a long time. But on these two use cases, regulated investment products and payments, we're seeing some good traction that we basically didn't see before.
Yep. No, it's a really good point. And as you know, I've been also working as a crypto journalist for now 8 years. So of course, every year it's okay. This is the year. This is the year where when we will see all the traditional players getting in the crypto space. So I fully agree with you. I have 2 or 3 more questions, but thank you again, Antoine. So again, about traditional players, when you are BlackRock or other traditional players, what are you looking for through blockchain? It's more efficiency, it's more traceability, it's more how you see things about it. And I have also a question about so you are in the front of the US markets. You are also available in South America, in Europe. What is for you the most dynamic market in the crypto space?
I believe that today the most dynamic market, at least for what we do from our perspective, is the Latin American market, for sure. Because this is where like the 0 to 1 is done in the fastest way. You have less of sort of the regulatory blockers from the local regulators that prevent or kind of slow down the evolution of these companies. I think to go back to your question, so as BlackRock, like what are you looking for when you kind of building crypto related products? But the first thing which seems obvious is I would say profit, but in a way like the Bitcoin ETFs, they're not making a lot of money. They're not making a lot of money out of it because there's been this race to the bottom related to fees. But essentially, they're trying, as a company that is trying to grow revenue, like they're building new products, and these new products could potentially bring a lot of revenue within the firm. And I think that it's kind of the first objective of these companies is to make more money. But then what we can see, there's this like interesting like strategy that's been communicated a few times by BlackRock CEO, which is kind of we testing through Bitcoin. It's kind of the most simple thing that we can build, like the most simple crypto related products that we can offer to our customers, and then we can basically build more niche stuff, more complex stuff, and we can grow from Bitcoin ETF to like the future that he sees to be tokenization. There's the interesting product that BlackRock has is this like money fund, like this money market fund built on top of Ethereum, and this is really a niche, like it's really a niche product in the sense that it aims at serving companies that have a treasury in crypto, not necessarily, from what I understand, doesn't serve as like serving like every single company. Is like companies that have a lot of stable coins that I want to access like a very regulated and safe money market fund, like they can access that product. So there is this interesting thing of we release simple product, the kind of mass market products, and then we build more complex stuff that are more niche, and then we see from where we go. But also there is, and especially true in terms of payment in the world of payments, for every product related to payments, companies are really looking after efficiency, and we can really see that in the Latin American market, where there are some differences. There are some local differences, like the payment infrastructure in Brazil is very different from the payment infrastructure in Colombia. In Brazil, is actually very advanced. In Colombia, it's a bit less advanced. And so, in a country like Colombia, having the biggest bank in the country, which is building a payment, which is issuing a stable coin, and building all the products to enhance and improve adoption of that stable coin, makes a lot of sense and would improve life of retail people and businesses like pretty significantly if it got adopted, because of the inefficiency of the local payment market, of the local payment infrastructure. So, but yeah, for payment, definitely efficiency, and for the first one is like trying to find the way to profit, basically.
Yep. Interesting. So I would like to finish with this question about profits and efficiency. How things are going for Cryptio? You raised 10 million, if I'm right, in 2022. Are you already profitable? What's your expectation for the next 12 months?
So as a company, we're not profitable, and it's not the short-term strategy to come to profitability. We are in a very early stage market that could become very big. We are pretty well positioned, and we are the leader in this, the international global leader in that market, but still like a relatively small player given the size of the market. And our goal is to be the global leader of like a gigantic market. And so to do this, we need money, and having like short-term profitability as an objective could potentially slow you down in this quest of becoming this super large player. We've been seeing, especially with the impact of regulation coming in, we've seen accelerated traction since the beginning of the year. The company has grown very significantly since our last raise a couple of years ago, but especially since the beginning of the year, we've seen really a lot of things coming together in that market, which makes us feel very confident in the future. So we will raise more money in the short term future, and we have absolutely no doubt that that we will be able to do so in the way that in the way that we want, and we'll be able to do this with investors and people that are also aligned with our strategy and our mission to build this very big global player.
Okay, interesting. And any competitors, challengers for Cryptio in Europe, in the US?
Yeah, of course, we have a few, which is obviously a good thing. We have some players in the US that are yeah. There's like two solid players in the US, including one, and there's been sort of historic competitor that started kind of the same time as us, and we've been kind of growing together. I would say, and there's none in Europe, and there is one in Israel also that is started a little bit later, but that we kind of also um, compete with and work with like similar prospects and things like
Okay.
this. There is some interesting dynamic because all of these companies have different visions and different ways of doing things. I would say that in general, we've been kind of leading that dynamic, like working with the largest companies out there, having the biggest contracts, like winning most of the times against these guys. But it's cool to be in this like early market where you don't really know where things are going, and so there's kind of no strong competitor to copy, I would say, because the market is too young and because there's too many places it can go to, and so you need to kind of trust your gut, and you also need to listen to your customers and go the way that you think is the best. And what we can see is that our competitors are kind of thinking about these stuff in a different way, which is always interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, Antoine, but I mean, and this is for sure the last one. But every time you raised a really good points. Uh, Actually, in your business, it's more a matter of I mean, technological skills, or I would say a matter of price. I mean, do you get a contract because you are cheaper than your competitors, or it's because you have the best solutions? And I know that maybe you will say, okay, because we have the best solution, and of course we have the best price.
You have two very different dynamics for like earlier stage crypto startups, and for some of them they're not in the best shape at the moment. Price is the main decision making
Mm,
factor, like by far. And so you have like a race to the bottom that some of the competitors are playing, and we decide to not really fight here on this race to the bottom. um, and so yeah, here think about like very early stage companies that just want to have their books closed. And so yeah, here definitely price where the level of complexity is not super high, and the
mm,
level of scrutiny is not high. That's the main element. Like
okay.
they're too early to be audited. That you have financial statement audits, um, and they're not going public. They don't have to be regulated. So price is the main factor
Mm,
here, and we're definitely not the cheapest solution, and we will never want to be the cheapest solution. So we don't
okay.
we don't play the race to the bottom. But on the other side, on the enterprise side, which is our focus, where we've been like growing very organically in the last 2 to 3 years, um, price is not a factor. Price is not a factor because the level of scrutiny and um, the cost for a company to do things not in the right way is so high that
Mm,
they're willing to pay whatever it takes to get the best solution. And this is the market that
okay.
we're playing in.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, like think about the risk of a company that wants to go public to completely like kind of fuck up their books,
Mm,
because they were a little bit too picky on price,
mm.
like 2 years ago on the solution that they picked. Like
Yeah, it would be a shame.
it's not.
Yeah, sure.
It would be it would be a shame. It would be a shame. So, and sometimes what we see is that sometimes some of these companies, sometimes they think about things a little bit differently, and price is a little bit too much a factor, and sometimes they go to a competitor. But in this case, usually we see them back like
Okay.
a few months after.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much, Antoine. Thank you, yeah, for this talk. And so, subscribe to the Big Whale if you want in-depth reports, news, data. And yeah, see you for the next big talk. Thank you again, Antoine.